Hello friends, this video on force and pressure part 1 is brought to you by examfear.com. No more fear from exam. Topics to be covered in this lesson are introduction, force, balanced and unbalanced forces, contact forces wherein we'll talk about muscular force and frictional force, non-contact forces wherein we'll discuss magnetic force, gravitational force and pressure. Now, the very first question that I would like to ask you before I start this lesson on force and pressure is, what causes motion? What causes an object to move? Motion is nothing but movement. So, when an object or a person or a thing moves from one place to another, we say that that object is in motion. But what causes that motion? Who makes that object move? Just think of a simple thing like a ball. So let us suppose you have this ball. Now when you push this ball, the ball starts rolling and it starts moving. Now, if the ball is lying on the ground or it is lying on a table, until and unless you do not apply any sort of push or you do not make the ball move, do you think that the ball will start moving on its own? That will not happen. So in order to make the ball move or to make any stationary body move, we need to apply an external force. So here comes the word force. So force is actually something which causes an object to move. Now not only to move, it can even stop a moving object. For example, if there is a ball which is already rolling, and if you want it to stop, so there has to be some force which is applied on the ball so that it stops. Now you might say that that doesn't really happen. If a ball is rolling on the ground, after some time, even if we do not stop it, it stops on its own. That's because a force is applied on the ball which stops its motion. Now we will talk about what kind of force is that. So that force is friction. So friction makes a moving ball stop on its own. So there is a force. So if we want a stationary body to move or a moving body to stop, we need to apply an external force. And this force is what we are going to talk about in this lesson. What exactly is this force? Is just pushing an object is a force, or just trying to stop an object is force? Is that all about force? Not really. We need to understand what is force. How do we define force in terms of physics? And that is what we will do in the first half of this lesson. Now, whenever we talk about force, if you talk about the definition of force, the two terms which are used are push and pull. Now, what do we mean by push and what do we mean by pull? You would have often seen push and pull written on the doors of restaurants or hotels or shops. So, you have the glass door. On one side it is written push, on the other side it is written pull. So, what do you mean by these two terms? What is push? So, the first picture, this one, what does it depict? Does it depict a push or a pull? It is a push. So push is always about a force which is applied to make an object move away from oneself. So here if you see, this is the person who is applying force. Or we can say that this person is pushing this box. Now he is pushing the box in this direction and he is here. So he wants the box to move away from himself. So this is called push. But if we are applying force to make an object move and bring it closer to ourselves, that is called pull. So here in this case you see this is the person and he is trying to pull this box towards himself. So whenever we are trying to bring something close to us, that is pull, and whenever we are trying to make something move away from us, that is push. And force is nothing but all about these kind of actions like pushing an object, pulling an object, lifting an object. So in all these scenarios, you are basically applying a force. For example, in this case, if you want to make this box move from one point to another, you need to push the box. What are you actually doing when you are pushing the box? You are actually applying force. So that is force. So let us look at some more examples of push and pull. Where do we push and where do we pull? So on the screen you can see a lot of examples, a lot of different scenarios. So let us look at the first figure. So this boy is playing football. So what is he doing? He's kicking the ball with his leg. So when he kicks the ball, is he trying to bring the ball close to himself, or he is kicking it to let it go far from himself? So the ball is going far from him. So that means he's trying to push the ball. You look at this scenario. You have a door and it says push. Push means you have to push it in this direction. That means make the door move away from you. So if you are standing here, you're just pushing it so that the door goes away from you and then you can enter. Now, when you shake your hands with somebody and if you try to bring that person closer to yourself, or if you are trying to make that person go away from yourself, so there you will have the concept of push and pull. So looking at this picture, you see this man, the first person and the second person. So this first person is trying to bring the second person closer to himself. So he is actually trying to pull him. So this is an example of pull, where one is pulling two. Here you would have often seen these kind of buttons if you go to maybe a PlayStation, or in fact if you would have seen it in many other buttons where you just need to press the button. So what happens when you press the button? So the button goes away from you. So you are basically pushing the button. Look at the drawers in your house. So the drawers, if you want to pull the drawer, what is a pull and what is a push? So when you open the drawer, what do? You try to pull it. That means you try to bring the drawer close to you. So this is an example of pull. But when you close the same drawer, that is an example of push, because basically you are moving this part away from you. You are pushing it. It is going away from you. So this opening a drawer is an example of pull. Closing the drawer is an example of push. So these are various examples of push and pull. So now let us try to define force. So what is force? It is a push or pull that can change the state of motion of an object or change its shape. Now, does that mean that a force will always be a push or a pull? Well, this is how we define it in simple terms, but actually these two terms alone do not define force. Force is all about any action that you do to change the state of motion of an object or to change the shape of an object. Now we will see what do we mean by state of motion and what do we mean by how it changes shape. So we will see all that. But when we talk about force, force could be a push, it could be a pull, it could be lifting an object, it could be dropping an object, it could be carrying an object. So all of these would require a force to be applied on that object. Now this force, what will it do? It can either change the state of motion of an object. Now what do we mean by state of motion? That means what kind of state a moving object in. The object is not at all moving. That means the object can either be stationary. The object can be a moving body which is currently moving. The object can be a body which is moving at a certain speed. It is a slow moving body or a fast moving body. So all these things define the state of motion, how exactly the object is moving. Whether the object is moving or the object is at rest, object is moving fast, object is moving slow, object is moving in which direction. So all these together define the state of motion. So when we talk about state of motion, it would include the direction of motion, it would include the speed at which it is moving. The speed could be slow, it could be fast. It also talks about whether the object is at rest or it is moving. So all these things define the state of motion. Now whenever a force is applied, it is capable of changing the state of motion. That means if an object is at rest, it can make the object move. Similarly, if an object is moving, it can make the object come to rest. So basically, initially when this ball was moving, that time the state of motion was moving. When you applied force, the state of motion is rest. Similarly, in the first case, initially the ball was at rest, but when you applied force, the ball started moving. Similarly, it is also possible that when you are driving a car. Now as you change or as you apply accelerator, the speed of the car increases. So that means when you apply force on the accelerator, the speed of the car increases. So the state of motion is changing. Earlier it was moving at a slower speed, now it is moving at a faster speed. So what can we say is that force is that kind of a push or a pull or some action which can make a stationary object move. So it can make a stationary object. So it can make a stationary object move. That is one thing that it can do. It can stop a moving body. So if an object is already moving, it can stop that object. What else it can do? It can change the speed of a moving body. That means it can slow down a fast moving body. So it can slow down a fast moving body, or it can even fasten up a slow moving body. So we can say slow down a fast moving body or vice versa. It can also change the direction of motion. So maybe the ball was moving in a particular direction. So the ball was moving towards right, towards this direction. Now you apply a force in such a way that the ball starts moving in this direction. So by that way, force can also change the direction of motion. Right? So these are so many things which a force should be able to do, and that is why we say that force can change the state of motion of an object. Thank you. Please visit www.examfear.com to watch more educational videos with a better experience. Please do not forget to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel for latest updates. Thank you once again.